So these are the tables. So you have one for the stats that you want to monitor, okay, and one for the actual values. It will be easier when you will see it in the interface. So after you do this, you will be able to store statistics into the database, but you need to first to set up a cron job for that. Okay, which is this. So it's a simple job, just triggering one of the scripts that you can find in cron job, and it simply queries OpenSIPS for those statistics and samples them at the desired rate that you can also configure from the interface. Okay. Next. Let's access it and see what's all about it. Okay. So the virtual machine had so this is the IP that we need to use. Okay. So the first user was admin, the password admin. Yeah. So this is it. That's it. Okay. So you have all the tools are split in 3 parts. The admin part, which gives you the ability to control all the admins that have access to the system. You can add more. You can check what kind of permissions they have. So you can either give access for a user to a tool or not give access at all. And if you give it access, you can have read-write access or read-only access. I'm not going to insist more on this. So my presentation will continue with some of the most important tools that you can use in the control panel. So you have, for example, the user management tool. Here you can add your subscribers, for example. I have already added 2 of those, and I made some tests before the presentation started. So I have here 2 soft phones with each one having a user register. So for example, here I have user 1. I'm going to call user 2. Okay, it's calling. It's asking. Here I have a blink. Okay, so I'm going to answer. You'll see that, for example, here we have a dialog module that will simply show the active dialogues running on your system. So if for example, if you want, you could stop the dialog right here. Okay, so let's do that. So the call ended. Okay. Now this has generated a CDR. In order to, for example, if you want to if you have a custom CDR table, okay, to the database, like we do, for example, let's check it out. So we are storing CDRs into the ACC table. So this is the structure, okay? In order to make it work in control panel, the only thing you need to do is go here, config. So each tool has its own local config. You can even change the database connector, okay? So system, CDR Viewer, and then local. So here you can define how the database structure looks like, what's the table, from where to fetch the CDR, and which are the columns, okay, that you want to show. So now let's see how it looks like. Okay, this is the call that the CDR for the call I made earlier. Okay, you can do simple things like search, I don't know, export and stuff like that. You can so you can even I have enabled the zip trace for this call, and you'll see that it will show an error. I left that unconfigured on purpose. So in order to have the zip trace work, you need to do a small change in the module's local config, same as with the CDR viewer. So let's do that for zip trace too. So it says, actually it's pretty obvious. So you have to configure this proxy. Okay. This is the default values that you get when you download it. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Okay. So this is the trace for the call I made earlier. Okay. So this is the caller, the proxy, and the callee. Okay. Now, the statistics monitor will show you all the statistics exported by various modules in OpenSIPS. What you see here are real-time statistics, okay, taken from OpenSIPS. I have also enabled some charts here. You can do that by simply choosing to sample different statistics, okay? And you can see the charts here. That's why I told you that you need to, in the back, these are just PNG files, and that's why you need to allow the user running the web server to write in that folder. So, for example, let's see the active dialogues. Okay, we just had one earlier. So they show what they should show. You can configure the statistics. You can configure the sampling time. I set it to 1 minute. The chart size and also the chart history. Okay, now. Control panel is able to control mainly, it can control, give you control over one OpenSIPS box or more, okay? So mainly you could use it for one box, but you can use it for more. For example, let me show you the most important configuration file. So here is where you define actually the boxes that you want to handle with control panel. For example, this is the virtual machine that I'm running on. Okay, so I'm connecting. You set up the MI connector. You can use whatever OpenSIPS supports. So this time I'm using FIFO, but you can go ahead and use XML RPC, UDP, or even JSON with the new. Which supports the new JSON module. Okay. So I'm using FIFO. You can OpenSIPS is able to capture information from the Monit daemon. So I have one running here on the machine. Actually. So it's running here, okay? It has, I have configured it. Okay, so all you need to know is you have to set up a password and a username, okay, in order to connect to Monit and enable the web server for Monit, okay. And what you will get is this. So actually, for this box, you'll be able to see all the information from Monit. You can see important information. You can configure as much as you need. Okay, this does not depend on control panel, so it's everything that Monit might feature. Okay, you can configure it and see it here. Okay, so this might become useful, especially when you add more and more boxes. For example, so if I could add, you see here, each box has an associated ID, which is actually a system ID, okay? And I can also choose to enable or disable charts for it, okay? If I add more boxes, and I'm gonna do that just to show you how it looks. So let's say I'm adding another box. This does not exist actually, but you'll see it will trigger some errors, so nothing important. Okay. So I'm putting it in the same. I'm using the same ID, okay. And I'm going to the part where you define the so-called systems, okay, in OpenSIPS Control Panel. A system is actually a set of servers that you can group together if you want to monitor them together. So, for example, let's say if you have two instances with OpenSIPS, okay. I have a slide in my presentation. Okay, I'm going to go. So, imagine you have a scenario like this. Okay, you have 3 boxes with OpenSIPS that share the same database. Okay, and you do provisioning using the control panel. Okay. And then you want to tell, for example, let's say you do provisioning for the routing module. Okay, you add new rules. Okay, and you want to tell all OpenSIPS instances to do a reload. Okay, so you can do that if you define a system that includes all these boxes. When you trigger a reload from the dynamic routing module, that reload will be sent to all the machines in the system. So it makes your life easier. Okay. So the same way to Monit. If you have Monit on all the boxes, you'll be able to see the boxes here. So let me refresh. Okay, I have to log out. So, for example, I did not save it. So the other box, let's say it was a present server. If that would exist, okay, and I would have installed a Monit instance on that one, you'd be able just to see that, the same as you do this one. So you can add that. You will have the ability to add as many as you wish. And you can see all of them here. Also, for example, as I said before, if you, for example, let's say you add a new rule or something. There's an error. You see there's an error here because the second box I added actually does not exist, okay? So the module tells you already it cannot connect to it. So if you, for example, change something, add a new rule, okay? I don't know, you want to route your calls to PSTN, okay? And you add a new rule. When you hit apply changes, Okay. Yeah. Not working. Really? Okay, let's see the dial panel. It's a bug or something. Okay, so when you hit apply changes, okay, it will try to send the reload command to all the boxes. So the first one says success because it exists. The second one does not exist, but it tries to send that. So this is actually a nice feature to have when you want to handle more boxes. I will tell you now a bit about the so-called table viewer module. Okay. At some point, somebody asked, "Okay, you have your own tables in the OpenSIPS database, and you have some provisioning for those tables. But what if I add my own table? I have some custom, I don't know, setup using local cache, for example, and I want to be able to also handle that table with the control panel." So we came up with the so-called table viewer, okay, which is actually a module that is able to perform simple crude tasks on a database table. That was the beginning, but then we decided to extend it a bit. So right now, when we introduced the call center module in OpenSIPS, this guy has 3 tables, okay, into the database. One for agents, another one for queues, okay, which we call flows, and another one for CDRs, okay. So we had to build a new module. So we just used the viewer module, which looks, I'm going to show you right away. So this is the module. You can simply clone it, okay, as many times you need. So if you have, I don't know, 10 tables in your database, you want to manage them with table viewer, you just clone the system part and the config part, and you have a single file to change here in the web part. You just have to change the branch where you store the module and the module ID. And we did the same, and then you need to change the local config file. Config tools, system, that. Okay, so this is the file that you need to change. So since we built the entire call center module based on this, I'm going to show you what I did there. So as I said, you have the module ID, which is call center. You configure it. You can set up a custom name for your new tool, okay? And then you can even configure a sub-menu, so you can handle more than one table. If you have 3 tables, for example, okay, this was the case with the call center module. So I added agents, flows, and CDRs, just like here, and it will show up here, okay? And then for each table that you want to handle, there's actually a simple config that you need to come up with. So you just spell name table, primary key. You choose how do you want it to be ordered when displayed, okay? And then you have to define each column, okay? And this offers you a couple of nice features. So you can define which type, the type of the column. So you can have text columns. You can have date time, or you can even have a combo select box. The select box can be fetched, for example, from a different database, or you could have, okay, you can even save the column is part of the primary key, okay, just to avoid errors when inserting, okay, not to have duplicates, okay. And you can configure here if you want to be shown in the add form, in the edit form, so if you will be able to add it to input it when you add a new record or to edit it. You can choose if that column is searchable. I mean, if you can search by it, and you can even disable it or make it read only, of course, in the edit forms. Like for example here. Okay, let's see. So I added here a flow, for example. So let's try adding another one. For example, I choose an ID, okay, tree. I type in, I don't know what's in there. I type in a priority just for the sake of it. I choose a skill, okay, and then I click add. Okay, it simply says invalid priority, has to be integer. So I have configured that. Okay, this is the table, the flows table. So you see, you have the priority. Okay, you have here the name of the header. You say it's text, and you can put a validation regex on it. And I said okay, it has to be an integer. Okay, and you can trigger a validation error. So as you can, so for example, if I go back, I chose to have this for this column to be searchable, so I can search by priority. Okay, for example, nothing common. Okay, so you can do this for all the columns. You know, set the validation regex for them and validation errors. So this is the main idea. Then after adding it, you can edit it. Of course, it's gonna work. Okay, so get back. You can remove it and so on. So mainly, this is what the table viewer, which is actually not just a viewer, it can do. So you can clone it as many times as you need, and you can use it again and again and again, just for your to provision your custom tables and things like this. So in the end, more or less, this is the control panel. It has many other tools you can use. For example, in your setup, perhaps you use dial plan. You need it. Okay, this is the most important tool for you. So I cannot say which is the most important one. For example, we even have a tool to manage the RTP proxies with this. This is from the fake box. Okay. So you have zip trace. Okay, it's not like Homer, but still you can see interesting. Actually, you can see the entire trace. You know, if you want to, you even have the messages here, so you can do. You can check why the call is not working or stuff like that. So there are lots of things you can do with it, and pretty easy. It's free. It's there. It's made for OpenSIPS. So more or less that's it. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask.
My subscriber table is a view. It's still working? My subscriber table is a view. It's not an actual table. Say, combine it over yourself. Does it work or it's going to break it?
Well, if it's a view and you're trying to, I don't know, perhaps add records, right? You're gonna receive an error, right? But you can.
I can do a custom one and edit the other one. Edit the main one.
Yeah, sure. So you can, if you just want to view it, you can use the table view, right?
Yeah.
Configure it for that, and just do not allow editing and adding and stuff like that. So, anybody else?
Does the install file actually include the small tutorial for adding tables in view?
Well, that actually is not there yet, but there is something that it tells you that you should check the config file just to see how you can use it. So probably the best way it would have been to have a tutorial for that.
Any other questions?
You threatened us a couple of days ago, presenting coming up with some ideas of improving overall the control panel, some new ideas of yours on how to do this control panel.
Okay, so yeah, actually, okay, so yeah, the main idea is that right, we really intend to. We are thinking actually to change the control panel from scratch actually, because the code is quite, actually the architecture is quite old. It has more than 8 years, and we are thinking very seriously about changing it from scratch, building a new one with the modern standards, you know. What I had in mind was to build an API, you know, a very nice API that would be very extensible, you know, something that would be able to control an entire OpenSIPS cluster, you know, that would be able to receive a lot of logic, you know, that you would be able to control and extend for your needs. And then, on top of that API, you would be able to build your own GUIs or that would be just a simple task as long as you have a very, very strong API that gives you so many capabilities and exposes so many features. So, more or less, and this was the idea. And I saw opportunity in this. I mean, I don't know how the user community, if it's impressed or not with this, but from my point of view, this would be the best approach, because this is what everybody does nowadays, you know, have a nice API and build on top of that, extend that. So as long as you have a strong foundation, you can build on that. If you have an old one, it's harder. So that's the main idea. So most probably we will do something about it, and you will be announced. Okay.
That answer your question?
Yeah. Okay. So.
Any other questions? All right, Alex. Thank you.